I don't understand, like, OBS, if I try to stream with my camera on in any application, it tells me that it won't let me. So if I turn the camera off and then start streaming, I can then turn the camera back on. It's the same camera, guys. Well, this is fun. I actually have faces for voices today.
And you can see the mess behind me.
Is that your microphone? Because it looks like you have a hair curler.
Well, no, because what happens is I don't want to pop the dang mic, go into it, so I put like felt on it.
So you have a hair curler.
Yeah, well, it's felt, dang it.
Felt hair curler. God damn it. All right. Yeah. If you guys log into to Roll20, you'll see my wonderful map that I spent time on. I swear I spent time on it. So let me go make sure we're live where we're supposed to be. Mute. This is going to be very bad if I don't mute. There we go. Hey, it's happening. Let's see. I can't.
So is that a new game on Roll20, or is this the same?
This is your same game. I just took my account back.
Oh, okay. So it's Welcome to Goblin Town. All right.
Yeah, that's what. I think I want that.
But it should be. This is actually the initial link that we did, like the first game. We did a link.
For the con? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do I need to relink you guys? Because I might have
Nah.
screwed a few things up.
When I logged into your account, so I need the link actually.
Oh, I see. Yep. And now we go back to the I forgot how to use Roll20. How do I get you a link?
I think I got it. I got the link.
Okay, can you put it in the chat for him?
Yeah.
Please.
There it is.
Yay. Well, yeah, because if anybody else shows up, they're gonna need the link. All right, so wow, my screen turned blue. My screen's probably gonna change color because I'm using my webcam, and it does that. It's like it'll go warm to cold and back again. So I got nothing. Anyway, we'll give Mike a few more minutes. So do you guys have any questions for me before we get started?
How do we win?
There's no win in archaeology. As a matter of fact, pretty much all you do in archaeology is kind of lose. So
Yeah.
So this is the moment for
stage moment. I'm at the point. Oh god, no, I will keep watching.
Goblin version of Section 106 stuff. Important stuff.
Would goblins have a Section 106? Would they care? Since they dismantle their buildings to build new buildings, would they care enough to preserve historical structures? And would they recognize past prehistoric culture as significant to modern day?
I think we're gonna have to Daryl a book on cultural resource management. And
oh no!
See what Daryl thinks.
Alright, now you want to read his name is Thomas King. Mainly because
notes.
I like Tom King's books only because like he does not hatch it. The only thing he doesn't do is legitimately swear, and I think actually he does several times, but I don't think he drops the F-bomb. But yeah, his books are used. These are textbooks. Tom King in person's a little acidic, but he's a nice guy. His heart's in the right place.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to pick up some 106 books because you hate yourself, look for Thomas King. Or you could just go to the website and just type in Section 106.
Oh,
yeah. Is Twitch just being glitchy, or is it because I'm running too much shit? Can someone else check the Archaeological Gaming Twitch ring? Because it might just be I got too much going on my computer. Is it?
Okay. Yeah, now you're gonna get to see how I get to monitor myself while I'm doing this.
I see her lips moving, but I don't hear her. Yes?
Yeah.
No.
2 sets of headphones.
All the headphones. Man, you guys sell all of your positive energy.
Oh yeah, how's he doing?
Bad. It's not his fault. We can't hear you, babe, if you're asking us that. I shouldn't say babe, I'm sorry. I'm used to talking to like people in the field. She's like, you can tell she's aggravated. She's like, oh, headset off. Murder you. I know this
Hey,
feeling.
I'm not authorized to join the game. I don't know what that's about.
Authorized to join the game.
Yeah.
Back out.
Anything?
Hey!
No?
Yes.
Can I hear
Yes.
you?
Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Let's see.
There's a
Why?
muffled
there won't-
bit.
Should take her headset off.
Hang on.
And I'm checking the Twitch channel. It's just super laggy. I think we're all our videos, but
Well, Twitch is also doing a big TwitchCon,
Yeah,
oh,
GlitchCon.
got
GlitchCon,
it.
so maybe
Okay.
that's not helping smaller channels who aren't cool enough. Where am I going? I am putting a new thread here. Try that one.
Let's see.
Do you have an, well, you don't have to have an account. I don't care about Roll20 Wizard. Where's my launch game? Launch game. To be fair, this is kind of what the beginning of a excavation's like, so.
It's like, where are the keys to the truck?
Right? What do you mean we don't have enough screens? Somebody go back and get.
No auger? What are you talking about?
Where's the bucket auger? We need the extension for the bucket auger.
I think to bring a breaker bar.
How are you gonna clean it out?
Remember already?
Then you get there and you're like, it's all clay. Someone needs to go get the pickaxe. How many of you guys use pickaxes? I know that's a very regional thing.
In certain situations.
I've had to use them before.
Not in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, for clay. Super hard clay.
I've had to use them on clay once and frozen ground once. So.
You were
Is it
digging
in
a frozen
Wisconsin?
ground? How?
Yeah.
You missed the pickaxe.
I mean, I've used a pickaxe in my yard and stuff like that. It's just, it's not that bad.
There was one project we were doing, and I will not mention with who, but we went out after the ground had frozen. It was a phase 1, and so what they had us do was, and we did our lines like normal, but we just kind of basically pickaxed and chunked out the entire unit, put it in a soil sample bag, and took the soil back to the lab to let it thaw and then water screen.
Cool.
I guess.
That sounds hard though.
Do what?
That sounds hard though.
It was.
Pickaxing it out.
It was. I mean, you have no way of keeping track of stratigraphy, and it wasn't one of my favorite projects.
Was that in Wisconsin?
Michigan.
Didn't you work? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had a project in Wisconsin kind of like that.
I know it's something that happens pretty frequently, but I still don't like it. As a scientist, I don't like it. As an archaeologist, it was fucking cold and I wanted to go home.
Yeah, so you hate it.
Well, if the ground's frozen, it's not warm.
That's true.
Laugh all you want. Are you snorting over there? All right. I guess we're not getting Mike today. Did he forget?
Maybe he forgot.
Well,
If he jumps in, he
he might
jumps.
be busy. He has his family and
Didn't
stuff.
he? Didn't he say he had some other conference today?
That's what I was like. I thought he
This
said
morning?
something that he wasn't going to be able to make it. He was going to be late if he did. I don't remember. And now there's just pictures of prehistoric poop.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I just like all the bags holding them up like, yeah, this is the haul we got today.
That was one too many. That was one too many.
It's fine. You didn't post one too many. I'm just literally giving you shit.
Many bags for that day.
Proverbially. Anyway.
Literally.
I thought I saw something. Maybe I'm crazy, but I thought he said that the timing would work out.
Yeah, I thought so, because I thought the conference was earlier. But...
Yeah. Or yeah.
You know, if he jumps in, he jumps in. People have lives as much as I pretend like you guys don't. So I understand. No, really. My joke is always gaming is life, but it's really not. I'll just shoot him a note. Are you joining us? And if he does, then he does. Alright, so we have... Are we missing anybody else? I don't think we are, we? Mike?
No, it's just Mike.
Yeah, Mike's the only microsome in the group. Okay.
He did say he could make it, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, something might have come up. And hopefully
Yeah,
it's not a bad
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
Alright. So, my proposal is that we are real archaeologists, and the fantasy element of tonight's game is that goblins don't actually exist, clearly, but Goblin Town does, and we are excavating the remains of Goblin Town. I would like us to be modern day archaeologists because there's no point in pretending like we're future archaeologists. So what we have at our disposal today is what we have to excavate this site. So on Roll20, I've put a site sketch down, and I know it's not like super, but whatever. So I've got a couple different things marked off. I kind of figured maybe we've already, scraped this up, got the topsoil off the way, got the grass out of the way. We don't have to actually like look for the features anymore. They're right there. So Daryl made a sketch, a really nice sketch of, I don't want to show it to you yet. No, I don't want to show it to I don't want to show it to people yet. But Daryl made a really nice sketch of what the butcher shop would have looked like. And so we're going to be at the butcher shop. And I thought that would be an interesting because we know there was a fire that happened there and, it's a butcher shop. So there's going to be a lot of processing, a lot of tools, a lot of things that we're going to expect to see here. And I thought it might be fun for people who tune in, because apparently we have people who are actually watching, to talk about what we would expect to see in this kind of a situation. So what I've got laid out is, can you guys see my pointer? No. So I've got a 3-room building here that we have the remains of. We've got 2 rooms that here have like more of a structured footprint, and then we've got fieldstone I've lost my words. A fieldstone footprint here. These are bricks. We've got 2 brick laid entrances, and then we've got what looks like a brickyard in the back. This is bone, so we've got a bit of a bone pit back here. And I just randomly stuck a marker and a 10-centimeter marker up there that doesn't actually mean anything. So roll with that.
We can make a map with that one. So
Yeah, it's true. I just thought it would be funny. I figured the few houses that I've excavated, there's a couple on the inside. We've got a large black stain here, and this wouldn't like color, but I'm thinking there's like a half moon stain over here as well. Now, what I would like us to talk about is what kind of material culture we would find in the first few layers of this as we start excavating it down. Because we know it's a butcher shop and we know we've got a boneyard. But how do we figure that out from the archaeology that we start to find? So what would be some of the first things we would start finding when we start excavating? And feel free to just, throw stuff out there as long as it's reasonable. So there's no right or wrong answers here. And then we'll ask Daryl if we're right.
Jeez.
He's like, why am I here? This is why.
That's
I'm like-
why.
I'm trying to think because I have a lot of like toys and like things I could like pull out to like distract you or hide myself behind.
Nope, not happening. All right.
No, I got one.
He's like, no, I got something. For Christ's sakes.
There you go.
I don't think fans count. So who wants to go first? Also, wait, actually, let's introduce ourselves first. That's usually the good icebreaker. And then kind of explain, do we have a specialty? So, I'm Sarah. I haven't been in the field for the past year for obvious reasons, but when I do dig, I do prehistoric and historic stuff. My focus is mostly modern historics, but I can do glass from pretty much any century. So that's me. I'm not like a bone person or anything like that. And I do him. Next.
Okay, I'll go. So
Okay.
I'm Lisa. I'm playing a theory, but not tonight. I do CRM on the West Coast, and I specialize in prehistoric, but now doing CRM on federal land. Learning the whole gamut of everything from 50 years ago on back.
Yeah. It's
And
fun
I'm
of
not a
seeing.
bone person either.
Do we have a zoo arc person? I have to bullshit my way through the zoo arc.
No, so I'm more lithics.
Excellent. We can talk
Look
cut
at
mards.
Yeah.
To talk, I'm gonna pick Indy because she's right underneath me.
Can hold you up. I'm Briandra. That's my real name. Those that follow me know me as Ellie Croft on the internet on Twitter. That's my Twitter go-to name. I'm a CRM archaeologist. I don't really specialize in much of anything. I,
Love that
just
we're all
do
CRM
everything.
people.
I'm a jack of all trades, master of none.
That's how it goes.
But I do a lot of work. Yeah, I do a lot of work with the local tribes here, specifically the band of Mapa Paiutes. So I do a lot of like that indigenous archaeology where I work closely with them to figure stuff out and show them stuff, and they show us stuff, and it's been really fun and interesting. So not a bone person either. I do know that the best way to tell if it's actually bone or not is to put it in your mouth. Licking it, okay, licking it. So
I think we had a discussion
because
earlier
out
about
here,
coprolites.
You can put a corporalite in your mouth. It's stone.
it's fine.
It's fine. You're not gonna catch anything.
But yeah, so out here we have caliche, which is like this white like calcium based stone, and sometimes it looks like bone, and the best way to tell if it's not is you just stick it to your tongue. If it sticks to your tongue, it's bone. If it doesn't, then it's
That's good to
bleachy.
know. It's good to know.
So, yeah.
Mortar, how however will stick to your tongue. Just letting you know.
Yes,
All right.
archaeologists. We put things in our mouths. It's fine.
I actually, after I did a cemetery,
Archaeologist.
after I did the last cemetery, I quit putting stuff in my mouth because there were TB patients buried there.
Ooh.
And I guess
Yeah, that's
TB is
weird.
one of the few that you can catch from bone remains. So I was like, I'm gonna stop doing that now. So
Yeah, I stopped doing that too. 'cause it's-
yeah, I don't want
people don't
TB.
like when you put your phone on- yeah.
I still try to convince the new people to do it though, because I'm horrible. But all right, short round.
Hi, I go by Short Round online. My name is Anna. I've been a CRM archaeologist and dabbling in federal for the last 3 years. I am in grad school now, and I'm focusing on lithics primarily. I also really like experimental archaeology, so I'm always flint napping.
So this is like a regular
But,
meeting though. We just need a bonfire going because we got somebody flint napping. Who's got the guitar?
Yeah, exactly. Also not a bone person, thank God.
How'd I manage this? There's no bone people. We're going to the butcher shop. Who's our bone person? All right, your turn.
Zoark class, though.
Yeah, Zoark's
I
good.
mean, to kind of go with the bone thing, I'm actually, I don't like meat. For a long time, I was basically vegetarian. So it was just like, why am I doing the butcher shop? So,
Did this to yourself. All right, introduce yourself.
All right, so my name's Daryl. I go by Harusaki Emon on online. I have absolutely no training or experience in archaeology whatsoever. Okay. My education was actually in art. However, I ended up being an ESL teacher for a few years, several years, in fact. So I've done a little bit of traveling. Actually, if you can notice all the stuff behind me, like this one here's from Yunnan, China.
Oh,
This
cool.
thing here, actually, if you look at it, that's actually a Chinese like suit. If you look at it, that's like the actual like Chinese suit. And then you notice, like right there, that's my Black Panther mask.
Very eclectic. I like it.
Yeah,
Wakanda
so,
forever.
Yeah. Try to like, I don't know. You get like my stuff and thing in the background.
Daryl's our usual
so-
GM for this story, for this
yeah,
game
I'm the
though.
GM,
So
and since I have a training in art, I'm the one doing like all the illustrations and designs and stuff like that.
not this crappy map, but the pretty map the pretty picture we'll show later. It is a very nice picture. You guys will like it when you finally see it.
Yeah, thanks. I worked on it so hard.
Clearly you've never seen what I draw. Oh wait. All right, so we've got our introductions out of the way. When Mike finally joins us, we will have him introduce himself very quickly. He plays the lovely flower sniffing goblin who I adore. Grandal, yes. I don't know everyone's names. I'm sorry. All right.
I'm dead right now for this game, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're all dead by now.
Exactly. We are. If we pretend like the Goblin Town existed in what would be the medieval period of the real world, so Goblin Town would be what we're looking at, like the 1100s. Feel free to correct me, seriously. So we're looking at the 1100s up to modern day. So yeah, they're going to be dead for a while. Also, we're in the butcher shop. We're hopefully not in an actual cemetery at this point. And I thought about throwing in some human remains, or goblin remains, but since we don't have a bone person, it's probably better that way. But since we are all CRM people, the major reason I decided not to do that was because in a CRM situation, when you find bones that you weren't looking for. It's a different situation when you're in a cemetery, but when you find remains and you weren't expecting to, it has a tendency to shut the program or to shut the project down for at least a time. So I was like, I don't want to glorify that. I want people to understand that if we did encounter remains, and in this case, goblin remains, it would probably have the same effect, and we would have to postpone the project until someone could come out and examine them properly. And you do work with the tribes, though. Have you been on a project where you guys have discovered remains, and what happened at that point? Because I've only dug in Indiana, and we don't recognize tribes there because why would we?
The name of the state is Indiana.
Yep. It is literally named the Land of Indians. We do not recognize any tribes in Indiana. So fun times. So what happens? What happens when that happens? When that occurs?
So actually, it's really complicated. If it's something that we actually find their land, like on the res, they actually can decide what happens with it and what we do with it. We did have a couple instances where the tribe actually called us because my coworker, our field director, is a bone person. He's a bioarch. And so he's usually the one that goes out and actually checks the bones and confirms whether they're human or not.
Okay.
And we did have one where there was a project where biologists had actually found it. They were doing a desert tortoise survey, and they came across, I think, a mandible and some fragments, I think, of the skull and something else. And so, because it was right on the boundary line between BLM land and reservation land, the tribe and BLM had to get involved. I'm not sure whatever happened.
I was gonna say that must have been fun.
Because at some point, you know, we no longer are part of the process, unless, you know, the tribe requests us to come and excavate and stuff like that. But I think what ultimately ended up being decided was to leave them where they were, because the tribe thinks that it was actually a more recent death. They had an elder that actually had Alzheimer's and had wandered off at some point and disappeared. Yeah, so I think they did a type of ceremony, and then I think they may have just left the remains there. We did also get a call when the tribe was doing improvements, actually near, like, where they actually live on the reservation. They're doing some type of road improvements or drainage improvements, and part of the mesa that they were digging in was actually a known spot as a hot spot for burials. And there was a really bad flood not that long ago, and somebody had found a leg bone, I think. I don't know if it was a femur or if it was the lower part of the leg. And the tribe was like, you know, they're very superstitious about that stuff. So, like, they do their ceremony, their blessing type thing, and then they actually just requested for the bone to be removed. And it may be repatriated at another point, but at this point it was just removed from the area so they could continue to work.
Well, a lot of people don't know that these things are different from tribe to tribe as well. Like, certain tribes don't like to deal with human remains. Some tribes are very attached to their past people. So it's a case by case basis, is what I'm saying.
It is very much, yeah. Like the Mwapa, they will actually. There's been a couple times that our tribal monitors, like long after the fact, the project's already done and over with, and have come to us later. Yeah, we saw something and didn't say anything to you guys.
Oh,
And so I
wow.
was like, okay. I mean, like,
Well, but that's their job, so that's their call. Mhm.
yeah, it's like, it's your ancestors,
Yeah.
and if you don't want us dealing with it, that's fine. Or if you don't want to deal with it because of superstitions or whatever your beliefs are, that's fine. So, in the case of if it's not on tribal land, then that's where we end up sitting around and waiting for the coroner to show up.
Yeah.
And I actually have
Yeah.
I
That's the
have
first call you gotta make.
unfortunately had to deal with this,
Mhm.
and unfortunately it was an actual fresh body. So
Oh
it was
no, that
for
is my
sure.
nightmare.
Yeah, this lady, she had we thought for sure that like it was some horrible drug deal or something that went bad, or she had been kidnapped or something. But no, she like went out in the desert and decided to set herself on fire. And we found her completely charred remains in the desert while we were surveying. And it was just like, yeah. And so that was like 12 hours. Like the already long day of being out in the field got extended by like another 8 or 6 hours because we were in the middle of nowhere and had to wait for them to come out. They had to drive all the way from Vegas to get to where we were, because there's like one coroner for the entire Clark County area.
I've watched CSI. I know how this works.
Yes. It was interesting. I have to say, it was very interesting to see in person, but I don't recommend it.
This is why I won't go and look in the meth houses when we find them out in the woods, because I don't want to find a body. I don't want to find someone. And if I don't look, I don't find them. Okay.
Out of sight, out of mind.
I'm just saying. It is always been like, every time we go out into like a new area or the greenfield, I'm always like, we're gonna find a body this time. Just gonna be walking down your transect and you're gonna find somebody. But we don't have to worry about that.
I mean, yeah.
I don't want to wait for the coroner. I've heard stories. I don't want to. But yeah, so we don't have to worry about that here because this is just a butcher shop.
It takes way too long.
A several 100-year-old butcher shop. So, all right, so we're CRM people. We know how this works. We got this nice map. We walk in. We've taken it to phase 3. What do we start finding? What do we do when we find the bricks? The bricks are always the most fun for me. I like bricks. So we've already got it mapped out. Or do you guys want to do the bone pit first? What part do you want to do first, I guess, is what I should ask.
All right, so we're on the outside. We're still on the outside of the building?
Yeah, we haven't gone in yet.
Okay.
We've got enough excavated that we've got an outline of we've got a footprint of the building, but we haven't gone in yet.
Well, you sound excited about the bricks, so we should do that.
I'm a historic person. Bricks make me happy. Where'd my picture go?
Well, we need to look at, so we're gonna, as we're picking up each one, we're mapping it or photographing it. That's our thought already, right?
Okay, we don't have to keep every brick. We just have to take a representative sample of the bricks. I'm not.
A maker's mark on it. See if you can tell the temper.
Now, what's a maker's mark? What's the maker's mark going to tell us? Excuse me. I am going to treat this like we're talking to 5-year-olds. I'm sorry.
I mean, fair.
What? Did you even know bricks had maker marks?
Well, here's the thing, though.
You put them on there?
You mentioned that. That's actually in the design of the goblins. If you actually find the one that's a stonecutter one, she actually has her maker marks tattooed on her arms and her ears.
Oh, that's fun. So these bricks, because they're not carved, they're usually molded. Are there maker marks on the bricks? I throw this to the DM. Do we find maker marks?
I think so. I think well, here's how I would imagine it, is that the goblin community generally is is a little bit newer than the non-goblin community.
Okay.
So the older the bricks are, the less refined they are, and probably don't have a maker's mark. The newer ones, once they're better established, will have a maker's mark and look much nicer.
So what we're finding out here is that we're going to have two different brick ages. We're going to have soft orange brick and we're going to have hard red brick. So how are we going to find more hard red brick, which would be the newer brick, or are we going to find more soft orange brick, which would be older?
My guess one is you find the much nicer ones for this one, because this is supposed to be one of the guild houses, the guild shop. So
Okay.
it's richer. They pay for more stuff.
Okay. So we're going to find more of the more expensive red bricks, which, like you said, that's going to tell us. I'm going to throw that down to you guys. What does it tell us when we find more of the fancy red brick and less of the orange brick? What does that tell us?
Corruption and graft. Someone had a lot of money.
I said a short round because she's being quiet. Short round. What does it tell us that we find orange? What's it tell us when we find orange and red brick together?
Well, I mean, clearly it means there's a change. There's a change in the town. There's a change in the society.
All right.
They're coming across more wealth. I would also be curious about the chronology of the site based on that.
Okay.
And if the the brick, the newer brick, and the older brick, if that corresponds with any stratigraphic differences in the soil excavated next to the brick.
Right now, we're finding them together. We're finding them laid on a pathway
right there
together.
Okay.
Like a herringbone path. Have you seen those? Herringbone is when they do the
like offset kind of.
Yeah, the decorative.
So much about historic archaeology right now.
I'm sorry, guys. It's fine. So we're finding the orange and the red brick together. They're being used together to make the brickyard in the back of the structure and the two pathways to what we can assume are doors. We can assume this all we want. So they're laid together, but we're finding, if we were to count the bricks, which we do because we are good scientists who record these things. There's a question about the orange brick, though. The softer orange brick usually is also a sign that they are hand making the bricks themselves there on site, as opposed to the red brick, which they probably ordered from somewhere and had shipped in. Are we finding any kind of like botanical impressions in the orange brick that we wouldn't find in the red brick? Like leaf prints or shells or any kind of impurities? And if I'm using too much jargon, just tell me and I will find another way to say it.
Is that for me or?
Yeah, that's for you.
Okay, just making sure. All right.
Sorry.
So.
Daryl's gonna hate me by the end of this. I'm sorry.
No, I get it. Because actually, now I have no archaeological background.
You can say no.
I think I've actually read enough, and I'm eclectic enough to actually figure out what this means. All right. So the town is actually built along a major river.
Okay.
So it's probable that they do have some impurities like seashells, but specifically like river shells, from them. If they're using hay or straw, then you might be able to find similar. The source just like a mile outside of town, because that's where they have their farmsteads.
Okay. All right. So
the bricks look like they're locally made. The soft orange ones look locally made. Based on what we're finding.
That's what we'll go with here. Yeah. So we're looking at it. So when we find older brick like this in a structure that has newer brick as well, I'm actually fishing for something here. What does that tell us as archaeologists about the building materials that were used to make the building itself? And keep in mind, these are just in the yard. These are just laid bricks in the yard. So they're mostly for decorative, maybe utilitarian purposes. These aren't the bricks that are in the physical building itself yet. So what I'm asking is when we find older materials mixed in with newer materials, what does that tell us about the older materials? Like where they came from? This is something
No,
Daryl's told me, and I'm trying to fish for it.
Okay, so now don't this silence. I'm very familiar with this awkward silence because I was a teacher for several years.
I know, and I'm
exactly
like,
what
I
this is.
don't want to say anything, but
Yeah, so I mean, somebody's reusing
there
something
we
that's
go.
already been out there.
There you go.
And I actually see that where I work, where there's a historic mission,
Hmm.
and after the California mission system fell apart, and one of the missions was abandoned, all the local ranchers started reusing the red tile roofs, the tiles and taking them back. So you see these scattering of mission red tiles throughout the valley and all these ranches. It's kind of cool. So I think that's kind of where we're going at.
That was what I was searching for. Yes, the reuse,
Yeah,
the
okay.
reuse of materials.
Cool.
You probably don't see that a lot if you're not doing a lot of historics. So
Yeah.
that was probably a me thing. All right. So what else can we learn from these bricks? What else do we want to learn from these bricks? What other questions do we have about said bricks? Ask
So
anything.
The red bricks, so the maker's mark, but they're not local, right? They've been purchased from outside Goblin Town.
No, they've been purchased from inside Goblin Town. They've been purchased from the Rock Cutter Guild. They made the bricks here. They're just nicer bricks because this is it looks like a nicer building. So, any other questions?
So actually, the
Yes.
maker's mark then could actually tell us specifically a time frame
Yes.
in which these bricks were constructed, because dealing with like glass bottles especially, you'll come across them, and over time the maker's marks will change, and specific maker's marks can fit into a certain time frame. That can be very helpful. So given that this is also based on who was guild leader at the time, maybe, so it could also tell us, okay, this maker's mark is for this guild leader, this maker's mark is for this one. So it might actually help us not only time-wise in chronology, but it also could help us who specifically was in charge at the time.
Yeah, and that could actually help us figure out who might have been in charge of the butcher shop just by figuring out who the contemporary was of whoever's in charge of the bricks. So,
right.
Last chance on the bricks. Other questions? Comments? Where do we want to go next?
Let's do the bone pit.
The bone pit. Okay, so interestingly enough, because I know they're goblins, we're probably finding bone pieces throughout the structure, which was probably our first clue it was a butchery. Short Run, you said you have some zoo arc?
Class taken it yet, so barely anything. I got a lot of Zoark pens, so I can easily just grab.
Have we all seen pig bone?
No.
Really?
I've seen cow and I've seen sheep.
Okay, so I haven't seen sheep, so you've got one on me. So we get a lot of pig and cow in the Midwest and on this side of the planet. The planet. I meant the country. And anyway, I've not seen sheep, so that's interesting. And you guys get, you're more west. So you're getting more like the steers, not so much like the meat cattle. Or the dairy cattle. We have a lot of dairy cattle.
Yeah, ours are mostly, the meat cows.
Yeah.
The meat cow.
I see bones in the field, but I leave that to the bone people. I never ask what they are. I just write down bone.
Well, don't do that, man. Pick it up and play with it. It's not going to hurt you.
I
What
do.
And see, I'm the type of person where it's like, if we know that it's not associated with a site, it's fairly recent, it's not like a prehistoric animal.
How do you know that?
I want to take it home with me. So
good point. How do you know it's not associated with the site? What if we find small thin bones in here, mixed in with the obviously more robust bones. Did that make sense?
So are we
Was that
thinking like rodent, or like bird bones?
Could be.
Maybe.
Could be. Do we keep those? Are we going to keep those?
You mean like
I
if we're
don't.
excavating and it's coming out in the screen?
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
if
Yeah.
we're screening and we're getting a mix of bones, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, we're getting a mix of stuff that, like, I mean, the larger, more
Yeah.
robust bones have cut marks on them, which is what we would expect to see in a butchery. And then we're getting these long, thin bones that are, you know, they look like finger bones. Every time I have kids out and they find a bird bone, they're always like, "It's a finger," and it's like, no, it's a bird leg. You're fine.
It's hollow. It's a bird.
Yeah, it's a bird. You're gonna live. It's fine. We're not mass murderers. Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff you sort out in the lab. I mean, you still
Yeah.
screen, bag it, and then.
Oh my God, you guys don't do this in the field? I'm so
I
What
mean, like,
depends. I mean, if
if
it's
there's
coming
enough
out the level, no, it's going in the bag into the lab. If it's on the surface, that's.
How far down
Unless
are
you know
we?
you just excavated a modern rodent burrow, which
That was going to be
happened-
my next question. There you go.
which is- we were following what we thought was a post hole on a historic
Oh
site
God,
in
I hate that.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And it's going straight down, and then it starts veering, and then there's like recent rodent bones. Yeah,
Like, this is the
Big-
worst post hole ever. Oh.
yeah.
I feel like it would depend on the
So just-
context out there.
We should
If there's
probably.
enough context,
Because there will be telltale signs
Yes.
too.
yeah,
So
like disturbance, and if there's a telltale crotavena or bioturbation present, that doesn't exactly need to be bagged. Everything in that.
What happens when we find the Coke bottle top in the same layer as our?
That is significant data because that tells you have disturbance, that it's not an
Yeah.
intact deposit.
There we
Yeah.
go. So
That's very helpful.
now we're just finding that inside of like pale blackish, obviously disturbed soil. So we're finding that in our root runs and our rodent runs if we find it at all. Because I'm not doing that to us. That's just
Gerald, did you draw root runs and rodent runs?
Well, right now, I'm thinking of what kind of trash can we generate to screw up archaeological digs later.
Oh, there's a lot.
there's a lot. If you guys, you do have the option to doodle on the map if you guys want to doodle on this layer of the map. Just FYI, it's out there. Okay, so we're finding bones all throughout the building, but we do find this large concentration over here. Have you guys ever, when you're on survey, have you ever come across a killing field? You will know if you did.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so
no.
it's a thing. And the last round of, there was something that went through the cattle last year. And so we came on this field, and it was just a farm field worth of land, and it was just bone from one end to the next of all the cattle, because they couldn't send the cattle off to a butcher to have it taken care of normally. So it was just this field of bone. It was the weirdest thing ever. But I'm imagining that's probably what a bone pit at a butchery would look like, except how do we know that the bones have been processed and they're not just an animal that fell over dead?
You would have tool marks.
Tool marks. What kind of tool marks?
Measuring marks on the bones.
What else
Well,
might we
it'd be
see?
Could be
I mean, they don't have like electric saws.
Hey!
So
There you go.
oh, look, she's got
you'd have a straight
It'd
saw
be a
cut.
clean, it'd be a really clean cut mark like that.
I mean, they had copper saws, so
So,
I don't
yeah,
know.
they'd have a clean cut mark.
yeah, they could get a
Oh,
cut
look,
mark like that.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
she doesn't.
really cool.
It doesn't have any
Yeah.
spurring on it though, so that's a really nice cut mark. Is that horn?
That look like an antler.
There you go. You know you can buy those for your dogs to chew on.
Examples for folks.
Wow, this is awesome.
Now I'm like, oh, I should have gone and gotten some
There's
of the
this
crap
stock.
I brought home.
I had this happen to me like 2 months ago. I get this call and a message from my boss where one of the places we manage up in the Bay Area, where there's construction going on, and the guys stopped. You know, it was being monitored, and there was a bone came out, and they're like, "Oh, we got to stop. We can't work. You know, we're done." But they texted it, and it's a saw cut cow bone. You know,
Mm,
just like that, like you know. But anyway,
nice and clean.
Yeah.
It happens.
yeah.
Now, we were expecting to encounter that here, so we don't have to worry about it. So what... Have you guys ever excavated a processing site for food, prehistoric or historical?
Historic, yeah.
Small ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Not like
Yeah.
big.
So what do you see when you're finding those?
Well, so here's what I might expect. If this is a trash pit, you know, that
Yeah.
they're discarding,
Yeah.
they're probably keeping all the good cuts of meat and bone are actually being sold off. So you're not going to see any like the bones associated
That's a
with
good
like
point.
whatever, like the prime rib or the T-bone or the ribeye, whatever. You're going to get like the whatever, the you know, the crappy little bones that aren't being
You know, that's a really good point, though, because foodways vary depending on culture. So things that
Yeah.
we would modernly not think of eating might actually have been a delicacy. So again, I'm going to pass this to Daryl. What would be the throwaway bones here? Like, are we finding trotters? Because
Well,
I
let's-
know some people like to eat those. My
Yes.
grandmother was one of them.
So yeah, generally in my experience is that for a lot of cultures, basically outside of like the U.S., they eat like head to tail.
Yeah.
Like. So
Yeah.
I would imagine for the goblins they do very very similar. Now the only things I could think of off the top of my head that they wouldn't eat or like consume at some point would probably be the horns off like a goat, or um or maybe like the hard part of the hoof off of some of
Would
the
they...
okay, I don't think that's edible, is
Would
it?
any of the other... It's not edible, but are there any other guilds in the area that might use those for material?
They might be able. Well, okay, so whatever they don't process and sell of themselves to the animal, they'll probably sell it to their neighbor, the candle makers, because the candle makers need fat for the candles, or they could process the hooves for glue,
Okay.
something like that.
Now, would there be separate rendering locations for these things, for those processes? Like rendering fat actually requires cutting and melting, and to some degree, would they be processing that there, or would they just ship the fat straight to the candle makers and the soap makers?
I guess, yeah, they just sort of throw it in a cart and be like, "You want it, you take it. You're gonna do
You take the
something with it."
stinky crap.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen a breakdown like that in any of the sites you've been on? Short round, because you haven't talked recently, and then I'm gonna get Indy because she hasn't talked recently either.
Sorry.
No offense.
An email came in. What was that again? Sorry.
Have you... No. Everybody's kind of choppy. Don't worry. When you go to the sites, have you ever seen a processing site where they were like processing it down, rendering it down from like the whole animal to bits to choice bits?
No, not really. I was working for the butchering sites that I've been at. It was very very early, so they weren't really being very specific at that site. It was all jumbled together. It was very
Oh wow.
It was very mixed up. So
what else did you find mixed in with the animal remains that weren't animal?
Well, we saw lithic scatters there. It was all surrounding a tiny hearth feature. There's charcoal.
What are both of those things in normal people words?
Oh, okay, so
what's a lithic scatter?
God damn, it's so hard to. Okay,
Gotta learn to do this shit.
I know. It's so. You'd think I'd get better at it. So in order to, how do you English? How do you explain?
I don't know.
So you need
Don't
tools.
know.
You need tools to work the animals and process them before you eat them. And in order to have these tools, you got to work the tools too. And so,
what are the tools? What are the tools made out of?
Rock.
There we go.
and you're chipping off parts of the rock with tools like this or a hammerstone, and you're chipping away little chunks of the rock to come out to sharpen it so that you have a super sharp edge that can be used as a knife or a scraper or even a projectile point if you need that. But these little tiny chunks coming off, they're going to be mixed in with everything that with the bones, with the charcoal, with nearby hearth features, because they're sharpening it really quickly so that they can use the tool
Now,
to work the
what's-
animal and eat.
What's the hearth feature?
Yes?
What is a hearth?
Oh, a bonfire.
There you go.
It's-
How do I know I found a hearth? How do I know it's a hearth? Because that's actually important for the site here.
You're gonna look for larger rocks arranged in a circle, and you're gonna definitely look for charcoal or blackened sediment within that circle. That would be where the fire would have been at.
Do you guys find burned earth in your hearths out there? Do you get burned earth out there? Okay, so we get burned earth
We
in our
usually get
hearths.
what's-
Good.
I was gonna say we usually get what's called fire affected rock.
Yeah.
Oh, we say fire modified here.
but-
We say fire cracked.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Three different ways, same
Different
thing.
everywhere, yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So, because we usually don't, unless we find like a rock shelter or something like that out here, they used they made roasting pits. So
Okay.
The fire affected rock, fire cracked rock, is going to be our strong indication that there was some type of roasting feature there. So
Does your
that's my
dirt
2
change
cents on
color?
that, so.
No. Like, I know that depending on what's in the dirt will or will not
It-
change color. So that's all I'm asking.
Right.
Oh, okay. So around here, because we have really high clay content, we get burned earth sometimes, and it's basically just, I mean, it's basically what brick is, what soft orange brick is, except it's in just like little nodules, because it's just parts of the hearth area, the burn area that has heated up and turned into basically baked clay. But we call it
I
burned
don't think
earth.
I've seen anything like that out here.
Really?
Interesting.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, no, that's cool to know.
Yeah.
All right, we're still at the bone pit. We have any questions about the bone pit?
I do have
Yes.
to sign out because I have a work
Oh no.
event. Right.
Is that why you're dressed nicer than the rest of us?
Yeah.
Wow.
The local historic society fall lecture. So
Oh,
I
We'll
would
have
love-
fun.
Thank
yeah, not
you.
bad.
And thank you for joining us. Seriously.
Yeah,
This is super
We'll
cool.
do-
This is fun. We should do more
Oh.
of this. Definitely.
We will.
I'm sure
we
we
will.
will.
I gotta draw more buildings.
Yeah, well, that's up to you. Okay. Before you go though,
Continue. I will tune in later. All right.
hang on. I want to oh crap, I have to move it. Ah, she left.
Oh well,
I was gonna show her the picture. All right, well,
She
never
already
mind.
left.
You'll all have to suffer later then.
it's in the Discord server, so.
It's true. Oh, there it is. It showed up. We're still on it for some strange reason. Go back. There we go. All right. You two want to keep going?
Down, if you guys are down.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm
Oh,
having a
boy.
good time, so.
I'm having fun too. Y'all
I
have
was gonna say,
questions
how
for me?
are you doing?
Come at me.
So, all right. So we've done the bone pit. Do you guys have any more questions about the bone pit itself? Like, do you have any burning, desirous questions? Things that you think when you see bone pits, or just midden pits in general?
Usually look
'Cause I
for
do have a-
signs of calcine in the bone fragments. I'm not sure if that would be helpful here.
What's the calcine going to tell us?
That maybe there was a fire. So sorry. Based on my
No.
limited knowledge of bones.
No, that's good. That's good. Would they be burning any of the on a regular basis, would they be burning any of the bones?
Actually, that's one of the things I was just thinking about today. Is part of the processing is they will be doing smoking and roasting, and
Oh.
sausage making. So there probably is some bone that has the effects of fire on it
Okay.
somewhere.
So yeah, you're finding some calcined bones. I did take that into consideration, but I do have a question for you, because you said something about juicy bits.
Oh.
I'm trying to think how you would. I would imagine they'd probably just dispose of that in the same area. Like that. Usually with midden pits, it's kind of like everything goes there. That's where the trash goes. And I would assume that the viscera that they don't keep would probably.
Well, what I was thinking of something was actually.
Now the killing floor is going to be a whole other story.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, is because this whole process is very, very messy. Like blood and guts and fat is going everywhere. So.
Because they're goblins. This is not a modern butchery. Oh, come for me. All right.
Also, really briefly, you mentioned middens. I think we should maybe explain to the audience.
Oh, damn you, and turning my own against me. Yes. So midden is a fancy word for saying trash pit, basically. But it can be, for people who don't know, it can be any kind of like garbage pit. Like it can be the garbage dump that we send trash to, where it magically goes in the trucks, or it could be like something what the prehistoric people find a lot are shell middens. What kind of middens do you find out west, Indy?
Usually we get middens that get created outside of rock shelters. So usually you'll get a layer of the trash parts of lithic production. So you get all what we call debitage, but this is like
there you go.
Your flakes and your little junk pieces that you're not going to use for anything else. And usually you're going to throw them outside of your shelter because you don't want to be stepping on sharp rocks.
Because if you think Legos hurt, you felt nothing yet.
Yeah. And then also, if you are cooking inside your shelter, your food waste is going to end up out in this midden too. More commonly, we end up getting pack rat middens. So like basically
from like actual pack rats.
Yeah, so like pack rats will go into these sites, and because we get a lot of alcoves and stuff like that, and they have a tendency to move stuff around and use it to make their nests. So a lot of times in rock shelters, we'll have like in some of the crevices on the inside, you'll have pack rat middens. And sometimes we need to look at that to see if they pulled anything out from the actual shelter to use to build their nest. We do have to be careful with that though, because I can't remember the name of the disease, but something
I know the one.
Yeah, that's something that the pack rats carry, or it's in their waste or something that you breathe it in, and basically it makes you very, very sick. So that's something we have to be careful of.
Worked at a site like that, yeah. But and then what's people in the audience, campsites, relating it to modern times, campsites. If you're being extremely wasteful and being a terrible camper, all of the food that you take out there, and the plastic wrappers for food and empty cans and stuff like that, a lot of campsites will just have that all in a pit somewhere just outside of the campsite. That's a midden. That's gonna be a midden.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. That's a trash midden.
Yeah.
This is a bit of an aside about the.
And those
the
are
rats
the bane of my
shelter.
existence for historic stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, those are the best. Those are the best. But go ahead, Daryl. Go.
Okay. I went backpacking out in Joshua Tree once, and we found these rocks. These like well, Joshua Tree is famous for its rocks. We were on the south end, and the south end is mostly just this flat desert plain. But there's these large rocks that form this kind of shelter, and we decided, hey, yeah, let's camp here. We'll just roll out our sleeping bags, and we'll sleep here for the night. And during the night, we felt the little feet crawling over the sleeping bags, and you're like, oh no! Even the rats are smart enough to know this is a shelter too. It's like, oh crap! Oh well, zip up tight, roll it over my head, and
Nature doesn't care about you. No, it's funny you were talking about the thing you can catch from the rats. We've got a fungus that grows inside the soil around here, so if you're not careful, you can just same thing. Just goes like straight to your brain.
We have that here too.
Oh.
We have that here too. It's actually what causes valley fever. So.
Oh wow.
That's something that.
That's funny that it has a name out there. Yeah.
Frequently. Yeah, and valley fever.
Yeah. It's called the hantavirus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Where do you guys want to go next? You got we've kind of looked at the brick. We haven't really examined the rooms inside. We haven't really examined the outside of the outside facing of the building yet either. That's up to you. Where do you want to go next? My non-historics people.
Is that the brown stuff on the sides? Is that supposed to be like field notes and dirty gremlin hands touching the notes?
Yep.
Wow.
They even had fingerprints that I put into brown because
nice.
like I've yet to have a map.
Right?
I was thinking more like rainwater, but yeah, it could be. I couldn't get it wrinkly.
Oh my goodness.
I wanted it to also be wrinkly because there's always that nice crunch to all of the maps.
This isn't archaeology notes unless there's like a dead bug on one side of the paper.
Yeah.
I wonder if they have
blood.
Yeah.
Is it rust, dirt, or blood?
Yeah. Did we look at the bottom left corner there, or because I know we were looking at one of the bone pits.
You should be able to click on the map if you want to like highlight where you wanted to go.
Oh boy, I did click on it. Am I supposed to click on it a certain way?
Just long hold. Click down and just hold it for a second. You see where you. There we go. Oh, you want to go see this?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going in here. This area of the building does not have the same nice wall trench digging. We all know what wall trenches are, yes? Well, except for Daryl, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Daryl might know what it is. Okay, so this area with the finer line has, a nice defined wall trench area. This area that you guys are heading into has more of a kind of a dry laid fieldstone look to it. So what does that tell us about this particular part of the structure here? When its outer walls are not as nice as the others. There are no wrong answers.
Be an older portion of the building?
It could be.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
Okay. Have you guys ever seen historical structures where they have, it's not at like formal plantation sort of areas, but more like at homesteads where they have the smoking and the processing house moved away or attached to the formal building itself? Have you guys ever seen that?
No, but it kind of makes me think of something. Daryl, you might in Filipino culture, the dirty kitchens, that tiny that more makeshift part of a house that they use to.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I mean, my family doesn't really have that, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't have as good of structure as the rest of the house, but it serves as like a second kitchen for for the messier meals or the stinkier meals or like
It's like outside, and you got like a stainless steel sink or something like that, and like a cutting board. Yeah.
like it could be a portion of the building that's dedicated to something a little bit messier, or maybe even like a outdoor bathroom situation or something like that, is what I would assume looking at this. Maybe
Now keep in mind that we're looking at a processing plant. We're not looking at a homestead.
True.
Yeah.
Though I
actually,
did
talking
just
about
ask my friend
customs,
what a dirty kid. Oh yeah, go for it.
I
If anybody
was
needs a
thinking, like,
break, just let me know.
I have to like design. How do they do that? What's the plumbing like in these structures? What's the waste disposal system here?
I was gonna say, if they have plumbing, we need to talk about that, because like plumbing leaves marks. Okay, so
Well, actually,
yes.
because remember, there is a plumbing guild, and
Oh,
I
you're
do
funny.
imagine that
That's
they
right.
do dig ditches and they do lay ceramic pipe. So there's going to be some sort of rudimentary sewage system here.
Really?
Okay. All right.
But
Well, I wish I'd thought of that, because well, so maybe when we're collecting our brick, let's see. Let's make it this color. No, let's make it different. It doesn't matter. So I just draw a picture. Okay, so we find. Let's see. Maybe we're finding this. Can you guys see the brown?
Yeah.
The brown
Yeah.
box popping up. Okay. And it's I know what that's supposed to be, so it probably isn't going to extend into there. And then there's probably something up here. Okay, so then we're seeing something similar to this. Oh, I feel like I've been paying attention. All right, so anyway, that's not confusing. But there we go. All right, so after we've removed the brick, we're starting to see these very linear, very defined lines that are going in straight. They may look like rodent runs to begin with, but as we all know, rodents like to go all over the place. These are not. So we'll come back to those in a second, though. Gosh darn it, that's not there. All right, so we're back in here. So another feature that we're finding in here, undo, excellent. Another thing that we're seeing here is there is a distinct hearth-like structure, but there's not a ring of rock. So all you're really seeing is like a perfect burn circle here. And what you will find on the ground is ash layers. Have you ever seen the living? Well, you guys have done prehistoric structures, so you've seen, like, you know when you've hit the living floor of the structure. How do you know you've hit the living floor of the structure? What makes that ground? What makes that dirt look different than the dirt above it?
well, the charcoal layer isn't going to surpass the living structure by much.
Right.
I feel it, right? And gosh, what else?
What about the texture? Like when you come down on it, how firm, how soft, how compact is it? Compared to the dirt above, and possibly the dirt under.
It would be firmer, right?
Usually.
Yeah.
Is that your experience, Indy?
The same thing, that it would be firmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a firmer structure here. So you know you've got the floor. You've got this burn structure. And like I said, there's ash layers. Also on your rocks here that you are finding, and is this, hey, Daryl, is this brick? Is the building outside brick?
So my imagination of it is that the foundations of the walls should actually be made out of stone.
Okay.
Then there's like large wooden posts to go up, and then a few struts in the middle, and then the rest of it just sort of filled up with plaster and
Okay.
brick or something.
So what you guys are seeing on the interior of the room is that the stones themselves are blackened and ashed. And if there are bricks along here, you'll notice that they are glazed in this area. This is not a similar feature to the rest of the structure. So Something special's happening in this room. What's happening?
I would then call up our historian.
Nope,
and
you're the
then-
historian. You're the historian today.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
clearly, some type of. I mean, if you go off of what Daryl has already told us, this
Right.
was likely the room that they did the curing and perhaps the smoking of the meat in.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what we're seeing here. Now, when we dig, can we all guess what this dark patch is supposed to be?
Well, initially I was going to say that's when we set the butchery on fire.
Wondering
But
about.
I think that was actually inside the butchery.
Yeah, I think you guys are actually
Yeah.
inside here, yeah. Well, it looks like a hearth, or it looks like an area where a hearth would be, because it's where the concentration of the charcoal is, and there's probably calcined bone in there, because if bone burns, why not throw it in there? What else do you usually find inside a fire pit like this, though? It's not just burned bone and that kind of stuff. There's always stuff inside the fire pit. What kind of things have you guys found inside the fire pits?
Sacrifices.
I routinely find
No,
melted
shit, we
glass.
said no human or goblin remains, so we're okay.
But I didn't say anything about hobgoblins. Anyway.
Oh.
Joking.
So you
I
said
mean,
glass?
When I find fire pits, especially in historic, and the more modern historic they are, the more likely you are to
Yeah.
find melted glass, because the value of glass goes down as the more modern time we get, and so people just throw stuff in there. I know that there's other things, like FCR routinely shows up inside prehistoric fire pits, and I know that one of the ways to treat chert, aka lithics, is to fire heat it, and it will also crack at times and leave bits behind. So it's just like, it's not, sometimes you find slag in it too, just like incidental slag from just the iron and the dirt cooking out. So
yeah.
what else would you expect to find in a smokehouse or a smoking meat processing area? No wrong answers.
Would we find tools? of
You
any
might.
kind?
You might. I mean, they are making sausage, and they gotta cut it, and they gotta hang it up. You're probably finding, like, probably also, what kind of, like, building refuge would you expect to find inside the structure itself? Not on the outside, but on the inside of the structure itself. Especially knowing what we know about the structure, that there's brick and mortar and wood involved in the structure itself. What kind of things would you expect to find that would give you a hint of what the building was made out of? I like Daryl's thinking faces.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, if the building is made out of wood, you should find nails.
It had nails.
Yeah.
Well, they did have a blacksmith. They did have a smithy, so they're probably using pulled nails. So what do I expect to find?
At least for smoking and sausages, I would think you'd have the racks. You need the drawing racks or ropes or something like that to
I
hang
don't
up the meats.
actually smoke meat, so I have a dehydrator. That's how I make anything. So I like that the vegetarian is telling us how to cure meat here. Do you guys find smoking apparatus at the prehistoric sites ever? I know it is something that was done. I just don't know what it would look like in the prehistoric sites.
Something like that before.
Most
So.
The roasting features we found have been like agave roasting pits. So usually you'll find remnants of the agave plants. but
Agave?
I haven't really found it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What? How does that work?
So basically, they would take the root of the agave and put it inside the roasting pit.
Okay.
And then they'd pile all of the heated up rocks on top of it, leave it to roast, and then come back and take it out, and then they'd be able to just eat it.
Oh. Okay, so they're stone cooking. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Neat. Have you guys tested the rocks? They started doing amylase, not amylase. Yeah, actually, I think it is amylase tests on the FCR around here to find out what kind of materials they were being cooked with, basically, to find out what kind of foodstuffs were being cooked. Because they did the skin and the pot cooking here where they took the hot rocks and put it inside the containers to boil from the inside out. That's what they did here. I have no sound. Did I lose people?
No, I hear you.
Okay,
But
cool.
now.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. What time is it? Okay, I haven't lost people yet, so. Do you have questions about the smokehouse? What? Yes, no?
I think my microphone's being weird. Not really.
There we go.
Okay, since this is my question now.
Yes, you
If
can
this
have
is
questions.
a butcher shop, right? They're creating and processing foodstuffs. Some of trash is more likely to attract pests than other trash. So would the smokehouse more likely have rodent runs and things like that as they sort of nibble on the cured meats, or what?
Personally, I would think they'd go out of their way to keep pests out of that area just because I would feel it would ruin the food. Post occupation, I mean, rodents go everywhere, so there's probably going to be. I mean, I don't think I've ever dug a site that didn't have rodent run in it, so. But
Yeah, pretty much.
They tend to like softer dirt, though, which is why they just wreak havoc on cemeteries. But usually in house structures, we were talking about the living floor. One of the reasons why the floor becomes so compact is because it's just the pressure of being walked on and lived on. It just compacts the dirt down. But it also makes it really hard to dig, not only for us, but for small animals. So under the living floor, you'll find root and rodent runs, because even roots don't like to burrow through that crap. But the floor itself, usually you'll have a few centimeters thick, sometimes like a foot or more, of just really hard, compact dirt from where it's been being used. So I guess my answer is maybe yes.
Okay. And then that sort of compaction will also tell you if you have a road or not, right? Or
Yes.
okay.
Yes. That's why I said we haven't examined the outside of the building yet at all. Also why I was asking you about what the roads were made out of.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you guys want to move on to another room?
Sure.
Where do you want to go?
Look at the drawings that you put down a little bit ago.
Yes. The pipes. You want to go look at those?
Yeah.
Do you want to come in here and look at them, or do you want to go back out in the brickyard? Oops. Hey, I can move them.
Oh gosh, what do you guys think?
It's up to you.
I'd probably look at them inside.
You want to do it inside? Do you want to do here or here?
Yeah.
You want to do the next room here? All right, so here is my thought process. Clearly, I'm just making shit up. This particular room that you're in, you're finding the same debris. You're finding the same debris, but you're not finding it in the same concentration as you have found in the other areas. Now, this particular part of the building does have the two main doors. Something else that you're finding in this area that you're not necessarily finding inside the structure, but you have found evidence of it outside the structure, is thin, flat glass. But you're not finding a lot of it. So what does thin, flat glass tell us about a structure?
Window?
Yes. Do you guys know how to do the... I can't think of the name of it anymore. Anyway, you basically collect all of it, and then you can estimate how many windows you have based on how much glass you have. Okay. It's something they do in the lab. Don't worry about it.
Interesting.
That's
I
kind
have not had
of
to do
Really
that.
cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a small detail. It's fine. We'll just say the lab sent us a report. But I will say that you're not finding glass inside anywhere else except this one room. Also, you're probably finding evidence of probably flat planks, remnants of flat planks of wood. So if you've got planks of wood that have survived this long, what does that tell you about the wood itself? Because remember, this is a several hundred-year-old building in a temperate climate. Well, no, that's important. It's a temperate climate, so you're finding wood that's preserved this long. What does it tell you about the wood? Of course, you guys are West people.
where everything's super dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't know about the wood, but based on the glass, I guess we could assume that that's the front room of
There you go.
the butchery, right? Yeah. I'm interested about the wood though.
So wood doesn't usually preserve unless it's been treated. I remember we were talking about the orange brick versus the red brick. So if you're thinking like flat planks of wood that are capable of surviving this long, means that the wood itself has been treated. But if I'm just slapping a building together, what is the chances that I'm going to take the time to treat the wood versus just slap some wood down and deal with it when it starts to buckle and break? So what is having this treated wood tell you about this particular room in general? Especially finding the glass. I mean, you're correct that it's the front room, but what's
Is that implying a door?
No, not necessarily. The door we can find because we've got the door lintel, we've got the open space where the door would have been. And then we've got the bricks leading up to the door. So that's a little evident just based on that. It's probably crooked because it's goblins, but we got to shit on the goblins a little.
So, furniture, maybe?
No, these are flat planks on the ground. You're only finding them in the ground. So like, like a floor.
Floorboards.
Yeah, I mean, they're floorboards. They're treated floorboards, but why would I want treated floorboards in a room? Versus the smoke room that we just came from, which didn't have a fancy floor. It was just a floor. Because go. Who said?
Could it be a showroom?
Yes.
Okay.
So I want it to look
sense.
nice.
Yeah.
Which would
Easy
also
to mop too.
and sweep. I don't know why we invented carpet, but we were wrong. What else?
Cold weather though.
What else would you expect to find? So we know this is a showroom. What else would we expect to find in the showroom of a butchery?
I would imagine some types of furniture, like a.
Now
I clearly haven't been into a butcher before, but something for someone to stand behind and communicate with customers. Maybe some places to sit down and.
So think about that. But remember, the building's several hundred years old, and wood on average does not necessarily preserve. So, and also we're living in a culture that reuses things. So me leaving the floorboards there was probably just, being bit. Probably they're not really there. But think about what the stuff is made out of. What would remain of that after it has deteriorated and disintegrated? What would you expect to
Of that
see?
furniture?
Yeah, what would you expect to see in the dirt and the floor itself? Because remember, we're digging the floor up, you know. And one of the ways that we can determine what a room of a house is used for is by the different types of things that we find in a room. Like in a homestead, we usually know where the sewing was happening because that's where all the missing pins are and the broken needles. Because those are metal objects, they usually preserve pretty well. Same thing with the bone needles and stuff. I'm sure you guys find those in the prehistorics. So you know where the clothing and the hide processing has occurred. So what kind of things would you expect to find in this showroom that tells us that it's a showroom, but not whole pieces of furniture? Well, you started talking, so now you have to finish.
Oh. Well, okay, question for the DM. So the economy, that's coin based, right?
Yeah, they should have coins.
Okay, I would expect some coins in the main showroom, possibly in a corner where that's being handled. Let's see. Gosh.
Gotta write notes down. Coins under floorboards.
Oh.
Well, I mean, think about modern grocery stores when you go to the deli or the butcher area. What's there? Obviously, they're not going to have that exact thing, but go.
You would have a display area where you would display the meat. So I don't know if you would necessarily have glass display cases per se, but you may have remnants of some type of something that they would use to either show the cuts of meat or package the meat right there to give to customers.
I would wonder if there are hooks in the room.
There could be.
Metal hooks, yeah.
You're gonna find random metal potatoes.
Is that the technical term?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Iron oxidizes, and it oxidizes in this weird. They look like little fingerling potatoes. And the bigger the object, the bigger it looks.
I think you mentioned that when you were talking about what's that stupid spark plug that rusted over? And
the Koso artifact.
Yeah.
But thinking about that though, what other I mean, we don't just have to find metal objects. Those aren't the only things that preserve, and they're also not the only thing that I can put things into. What other kind of objects would I use as a container that might survive hundreds of years? There we go.
Yeah, pottery. There could be different types of jars, bowls.
Now, if we're looking
pitchers,
when we're looking at pottery, and we're trying to assess the wealth or the socioeconomic status of a group, what kind of pottery would I expect to find? Remember, we were doing this with the bricks, with the red brick and the orange brick. So I was going to say colonial ware versus stuff that's been shipped in, but have you guys dealt with the freeware or the colonial ware?
We don't have pottery in Washington. There's no pottery here, so.
Well, it would be historic stuff anyway.
Yeah.
The stuff made by actually the Native Americans and the free blacks here, they used to make a specific kind of pottery called freeware, I believe, and it was very quick to make, very rough, but it was also cheap, and they could sell it. They could make it quickly, and they could sell it to the white people, and people would buy it from them. But if I went into a household that had a bunch of just that kind of a low grade, quickly made pottery or ceramics, what would I think of that household? What would be an assumption I could make about the household specifically as their socioeconomic status? to quit putting my hand in the camera.
That they're common folk, basically. They're having to either make their own dishes, pottery, ceramics, or they don't have enough wealth to where they could purchase anything nicer than that, so they're buying from other people that make that type of ceramics.
Now we're already in this location. We found the red brick with the maker's mark on it that we know is a higher quality, more expensive brick. You're in this showroom where they've got the treated wood, which we know is a sign of higher quality wood. You've got glass in a medieval setting. So what kind of pottery would I be expecting to find in this particular kind of a situation here? Or ceramic would I be expecting to find in this particular situation?
It would be nicer stuff. So you'd find ceramics that are likely painted, have some type of decoration on them. They would likely contain some type of glaze, a slip, or something to give it more of a sheen, a shine.
Make it more attractive.
Yeah.
So we probably also be looking for maker's marks on the ceramics as well. So Daryl, what kind of ceramics do the goblins have in this room? What kind of cool stuff are we finding here? Everybody likes ceramics.
I personally I love ceramics. Okay.
Everybody likes ceramics. They're cool.
So for the goblins, right? Ceramics largely is it requires more processing, right? It's a little more difficult. There's more skill to process that kind of thing. So my guess is that the goblins would actually have two sort of styles. They would either do a goblin style, which would be rougher and simpler, and a more non-goblin style, which would be more refined.
Okay.
So since this is the showroom, you would probably have something that would resemble what you would expect in a European medieval setting. Something thinner walls, maybe that sort of like delicate curvature to the vase-like structures,
That's
things
fair.
like that.
Yeah. What else? You guys have any more questions about the showroom area or other things that you would want to investigate or think you might find?
Well, I feel like
Or more questions for
a
Daryl?
butcher- I feel like for a butcher, in that particular case, then all of the maker marks, they would be the same, as opposed to in like a civilian's home or anything like that. They might be varied.
Possibly.
That'd be an assumption I would have.
I mean, again, thinking back to the brick that we found outside, there's probably a guild that handles this. So, and they're, all the brick were bought from the same guild. Probably they're working within the community which actually tells us quite a bit, actually, that they're staying inside the community. So I guess we could look at the ceramics and see if they do have some that can clearly be marked as purchased outside of the goblin community. Would we find any of that here, Daryl?
In this case, I don't think so. Generally, the goblin community is fairly insular.
Okay.
And I think anything that they could produce for themselves, they would.
Okay.
The only thing that they would actually buy would have to be something fairly exotic.
Okay. So that actually tells us, finding all of the ceramic with the same maker's mark and the same kind of design on it, kind of, and then compounding that with the brick. I don't remember which one of you suggested it earlier in the show that helps us figure out it gives us a timeline, words.
Yeah.
So we can do the same thing with the pottery that we can do with the brick. So now not only are we able to have a timeline of just this particular guild, but now we've got two other guilds that we can add into our timeline. Any questions? Daryl, you can throw comments in too. You don't have to wait.
Well, I thought your turn, right? This is my turn to just be like, oh, nice
and
polite.
Or you can hide. That's fine. Hide. Be that way.
Okay, I will.
Ooh, take that fan away from you. All right, you got one room left to check. and then I'm throwing you outside.
Going back to sort of going back to say that many of these goods are produced domestically or very locally rather. I would think that there would be certain styles.
I didn't want to put you too much on the spot for that one.
Well, I've already been thinking about it. Okay, so one of the I'm not exactly sure for the goblins exactly specifically, but at least for older versions of the city, when they would cut their stones for some of their foundations, they wouldn't do the rectangular brick shape. They'd actually do a trapezoid shape. And if you notice on my drawing,
I did.
On the bottom of the drawing or the bottom of the wall, they use those kinds of cut stones. So that shows that they use the older versions first to, set the foundation first. For the goblins, I'm still sort of deciding on a few things. My guess is if they carve some of the wood, well, if it survived, or if they carve into the stone and things like that, you'll get certain designs. I'm thinking more like spirally things or like little crisscrossy things.
Okay.
I'm working on some of the graffiti on the outside of the butcher shop.
Graffiti's always good, and that usually survives. The trapezoidal stones are probably something that we'll notice when we get outside the building, because that's where I'll throw it in, because we've already been in the stone room. This is all Daryl in this room, though. Well, this is all Daryl's doing in this room. All right, so you guys come into this room, and you are following your trench here. What's our trench? We talked about this. What's this trench? What would we expect to find in these trenches? Knowing what they are.
Corporites.
Did you say corporites? Possibly.
I was thinking blood. Like, is this where all the butcher blood just flows into it and then flows out the building?
Possibly. We're gonna find that kind of stuff. That sort of thing, though, only usually pops up when we do chemical analysis. Say it again, short round. Oh, sorry, that must have been. So, one of the things you're going to notice when you come into this room, I think Indy's getting ready to kill somebody. We can't hear you. We can only see you.
Sorry, I'm chilling with kids.
Hello, small children.
Yeah. Somebody did something bad to the other kids, so I'm gonna have to yell at somebody. So.
Do we need to let you go so you can go yell at them? Or are you gonna wait, let them suffer?
I'll just mute myself. You can just see my angry face.
I could tell that you were not happy about something.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, hang on. I actually have to get up and go to a different room, so give me 1 second.
No, it's cool. When you come back, it's fine. Now's a good time for a break. People need breaks. Somebody's getting disciplined. Oh, is she taking us with her? Excellent.
Oh.
Aww.
Oh no! She closed the laptop, I think.
So sad. Nope, there we go. We're gonna watch for the blood to go flying across the ceiling. Sorry. I disciplined them.
It gives me some time to think of what's inside this butcher shop.
Well, this is the killing floor, so
yeah,
that's all I got left. Because there's no second story anymore.
That's true. And well, the second story is on top of the first story now.
That's true. I'm not real good with like non-standing multi-story structures because I haven't really encountered that many of them.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing for the floor, right? I mean, they do reuse materials, but the thing is, though, the second floor, you really want to have that treated because you don't want it to fall apart on you while you're standing on it.
That's true, but here's the thing: like the few log cabins I've been to that are 2 stories, they, unless they are nice cabins. They don't typically treat any of it.
Mhm.
Just the act of being up in the air itself usually preserves it well enough to keep it.
Mhm.
But again, you were saying that this is a guild hall. They've put more than the average amount of money into it, so it's entirely possible.
Mhm. Mhm.
And also the smoked
Yeah.
area is probably going to help preserve as well. So
Yeah. I'd figured the oil and the fat from the meat would also be preserving, because it's a piece of wood that's soaked in oil. It's not.
I mean, if there's different ways to treat wood historically, and one of the most common ways was like tar or
Mhm.
resin.
Mhm.
I don't know about the
I mean,
fat.
we still do that with telephone poles. Telephone
Yeah,
poles still get like dipped in resin
mm,
or tar or whatever.
tar. Yeah, so they stink. How you doing, short round? Have we?
I'm staring at the picture that Daryl you finished earlier.
Isn't it
Yeah.
At the
beautiful?
moment, so I'm spoiling myself a little bit for some of these answers here, but it's just gorgeous.
It really is
Thank you.
pretty.
My archaeological joke in here, I don't know if anyone's caught it, is the picture of the animal in the front of the building, not the sign, but on the wall itself.
The cow?
Yeah, the cow. I based that off of what is it,
I
the
thought
cave paintings in France.
so. I thought so.
Oh.
So it's supposed to look like actually one of those bison.
I was like, that's awfully primitive looking. All right.
That's going to be my sort of trick for like the goblins. That it's the structure, the larger superstructure should look really European medieval, but like the graffiti's going to look like cave paintings and stuff like that.
So my friend who is in the Philippines and actually going home to go visit her families, she says, okay, you have 2 kitchens in the house. One is clean and perfect,
Oh
and the
God.
guests can see it. The other is the dirty one where you actually do all of the cooking. Usually it's separate from the house or outside the house, like in the super back of the house. So it's not part of the house, you guys. I love her so much. She says her grandmother has hers in a small shed out back because this is where the butchery of the animals is done, and also it keeps the smells out of the house, like the fish or the blood smell. You make snacks in the clean kitchen, but the real cooking happens in the dirty kitchen. Uncle Roger. What am I watching? So there you go. There's the difference between the clean kitchen and the dirty kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, for my family, being half Filipino, we don't have that much. I haven't seen that much because we're in America. We're pretty Americanized. When I did visit my family in the Philippines, I did notice that, and I was kind of like, "Why is there this kitchen outside?" I'm like, oh, all right, fine.
Well, it kind of reminds me of settler kitchens, especially in the South. You have the winter kitchen and the summer kitchen. And the summer kitchen was usually literally in the yard. It was just kind of an open air kitchen in the yard because it was hot and you didn't want that heat inside the house during the summer. But then the winter kitchen was part of the heating apparatus of the kitchen of the house itself. But that it's similar, but not the same thing. It sounds like because it doesn't get that cold in the Philippines.
No.
It gets to 75, and then I start giving her shit because she's like, "I'm cold," and I'm like, "Uh-huh."
Speaking actually of outdoor kitchens, a very, very interesting structure you get in Korea called an ondol. Or at least traditionally, the old version called an ondol is you actually have the kitchen or the cooking area outside. The stove is outside and actually slightly below the house. The house is actually up on stilts, so that as you're cooking, all of the smoke in the air flows underneath the house and warms it up from underneath.
Yeah, it's the same kind of premises with the winter kitchens in the houses, except they had brick and stone.
Yeah, they still have a similar thing, but in modern Korea now, but it's just a water heater built into the floor.
See, but then your floors are warm. Like, it's such a
great.
It really is. My floors are so goddamn cold. I hate waking up in the morning. Even the cats won't walk on the floors until we've turned the heat on.
I heard Korea. Oh gosh, my microphone. I heard that about Korea, that a lot of the apartments and the places over there, they have like heated floors, if not something to contribute to that, and that's really cool.
It's
Yeah.
actually a better way to heat because it
Yeah.
distributes the heat more evenly throughout the house as opposed to like my radiator, which is right next to the giant window. So like all of the heat goes right out the window. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Right, and you want to start low because the heat rises.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, here you get a house with heated floors and you're like, ooh, it's such a luxury.
That's okay. So this is my architecture, art history, like me talking. That those kinds of designs, architects, even architects in America have known about that and experimented with that since like the 30s or the 40s or the 50s. It's like out in Palm Springs, there's a bunch of modernist houses. Like if you want to do a modernist architecture tour, you can go to Palm Springs out here in California.
If I come to California, it's going to break off and sink into the ocean. So I'm doing you a favor by not.
I mean, well, make it the last thing on your bucket list. Like it's the very last thing. You come here and then your bucket list is over. And
I know I'm dying. I'm just gonna take California with me. Like Short Round's like, what?
No, I realized what was wrong with my microphone. There's a speaker on my webcam all the way over there, and it was recording through that. So I might have screwed us all up this entire time.
No, I was getting sound. You're fine.
Right here.
I have a microphone on this thing. I don't think it's using it. I'm pretty sure it's recording sound off of my wonderful high quality webcam. Why do they even put webcams in laptops? They're always shit. Like, why are we bothering? Man, somebody's dead. I'm just telling you this right now. We are no longer disciplining children. We are hiding bodies.
Now you're making me try to think like how do goblins discipline their children?
Savagely. I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what are you basing them on, because like different cultures discipline their kids differently, and their kids don't turn out so bad.
I mean that's an interesting thing. My guess is actually I think I was reading a little bit of something about this on an NPR article about how Amazonian tribes discipline children, and they don't really discipline them the way we do. It's that they're integrated sooner. So they take a role in society sooner, so they have responsibility sooner.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole thought process behind sending your kids out to do grocery shopping like so early. One of the things Araya and I always go back and forth on is like the kids that go out shopping when they're like 6. You just give them money and send them off to the store, and I'm like, oh God, you would never do that here.
Yeah.
But most cultures integrate their children into the society a lot faster than we do. And their kids are a lot more adjusted. And then they put all kinds of crazy pressures on them when they hit school age, and then it all goes downhill from there. But
yeah.
I remember in Japan, I was watching TV once, and there's a strange program, and it was about a parent just out in the street and talking to their small toddler child, had like a hard hat on and everything, prepared for any disasters, backpack on, and then the parent gave their child like a couple like 10 like what is it? What's the money? I forget the money.
Yen.
Like
yen?
Yeah, I know yen, but it's like the equivalent of like $10, $20. I forget how much that is. But gave the kid that, said go to the grocery store. Here's my grocery list. Buy these few things and come back. And this little toddler just out and about, ready for any kind of disaster, goes to the grocery stores, and a camera follows them around.
That's the show Araya likes to watch.
Yeah.
She sends me clips of that.
I think I remember the title of it because my friend really likes that show. It's Hajimete no Otsukai.
Yeah, I think so.
My first like chore.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a monkey do it once.
Okay, this goes back. I think in Hokkaido there was a family. This is like 10 or 20 years ago. A family in Hokkaido had a penguin, and the penguin had a little backpack. They put the money in the backpack, and the penguin waddled down the street to the fish market. The fishmonger would take out the money, put a fish in a backpack, give the penguin a fish to eat, and the penguin would turn around and waddle back to the house.
That's insane.
That's adorable.
I can't even get my cats. No, that's horrible. That's awesome. Imagine.
Oh my god.
Because penguins are integrated sooner than cats.
Apparently. Apparently I'm doing it wrong. Hear that, you little bastards? That's funny. The other one she likes to watch is Return of Superman because she likes to watch shows about toddlers. But in that show, they also they do a lot of like cooking, and you have to watch it. It's basically how men raise children. It's basically what it is.
Oh, okay.
It's
There's
all
the hook.
these guys, and they basically get left home with their kids for the day, and most of them are fine.
What is this?
Okay.
No, like literally most of them are fine. They're like, okay, kids, I
Yeah.
got this. You know, I made
Yeah,
these. I can
yeah.
do this. There's
Oh,
just every now and there's
no,
occasionally
no,
one
no,
that's
no.
just like, I don't know what's happening.
Just a mental breakdown.
I just remember one episode the guy was trying to make noodles from scratch for some strange reason, and it took him like hours to do because he didn't know how to do it at all. And I'm just like, why? And by the time he gets the noodles made, he's just literally sitting there with his head in his hands. He's like, I could have gone to the store and bought these.
Oh my god.
I'm just like, yeah, you
who-
could have.
Why?
Well, and then, like, he makes the food and he gives it to his kids, and they're like little kids. They're like 5 maybe, and they're like, you know, using their chopsticks better than me, and they're like eating their noodles, and they're like, these noodles are terrible because they're 5-year-olds. They have no filter, and he's just like sad eating
Like-
his noodles.
I'm just like,
They
I'm
were
sure
awful
moms
looking.
figure this out faster than guys. Like, don't give yourself more work.
I don't make my own noodles anymore. I did that a couple times. I was like, this is work. I'm not doing it, and I just buy them now. They're uniform. They're in the right shape.
If you actually if you're interested in noodle making, try to look up ramyun, which is the Japanese or Chinese version of saying ramen. So ramyun,
Oh, huh.
Nanzhou ramyun, because at least over there in China, they'll make it there fresh, and what they'll do is they actually make a whole bout of dough. It's this huge, like 10-20 pound log of dough,
Okay.
and then they'll rip off a piece, and then when they stretch the noodles,
Yeah, this is the one where they.
it's so heavy, they swing up, and then they'll swing down, and the whole table goes boom.
I've seen that. I've seen that.
Boom. Yeah, it's
Are all
lovely.
the children still with us, Indy?
Yes, no one is dead yet.
I
Keyword.
thought you were gonna say
No,
with the
what-
exception of
What
one.
happened is
You don't have to
one
tell
kid
us.
was playing Minecraft,
Okay.
and the other kid, I mean, I don't know. Like, one kid was playing Minecraft, and the other kid unplugged the Xbox, so it was a thing.
Oh. I had siblings-ish. I understand.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to do not children now? You ready to go to the
Yes.
killing floor?
The killing floor.
The killing floor. All right. You
Oh my
guys
God.
come into the new room. And again, I'm just making this up because I have no idea. I've never been to a butcher shop like this, so I'm just gonna wing it. What I would assume that you have found once you've once you have gotten all of the topsoil off and gotten down to the floor itself, you're gonna probably notice that the dirt color for the living floor is different in this room than it has been in any of the other rooms. And also in, excuse me, I can't freehand. Give me, sure. And probably in this area here, you're probably noticing a thin but noticeable burn lens in this area, this bluish area. So you've got darker soil on the floor. You don't have nice fancy floorboards. You've got darker soil on the floor here, and then you've got a real dark burn lens here that has ash and charcoal and larger pieces of burned iron, probably burned metal in it. Probably some FCR, just incidental. can't think of anything else that would be there. Anything that was in here shows evidence of a burn episode. So, what are we thinking? I'll see if I've got these drains.
Well, obviously, the door is going to be a different color because it's most likely soaked with animal blood.
That is where I was going with that. Yes. I mean, you're not going to find traces of viscera and blood anymore, except it's going to leave a coloration probably behind, I'm guessing.
I mean, you might have some, I don't know, from the iron in the blood, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was guessing. Or just organic, I guess. Yeah, probably you've got like an organic mix. Maybe it might smell like an outhouse, night soil. Because that shit hangs around for a while.
Actually, that should be. I mean, because my guess is, since there's no refrigeration, that whatever animal has to come in has to come alive, or very, very close after being killed. So, you know, animals, people too, we carry around our crap in us. So there's gonna be some of that here.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, that's literally my guess. So what all would you expect to find in a room where you are having the live butchery
There'd definitely
occur?
be bones. There'd definitely be tools. There's a lot of that scattered throughout this whole building, but they'd be especially prevalent in that room. The type of tools.
Yes. What kind of tools are we looking for?
That would be your standard animal killing.
Yeah. What tool type are we looking at?
I just wanted you to say bone saw. Bone saw.
I imagine there'd be some
bone saw
hooks in there too to kind of like hang them up and work them in that area.
So if you had a profusion of hooks and one could assume chain, what kind of metal objects would you then expect to find also throughout the room here?
Oh god, my pre-contact prehistory just screamed in my head, scrapers! Scrapers! You'd find scrapers!
Well, you're not wrong though. You're not wrong. Maybe not stone, but you could find something that you might identify as a scraper.
Yeah, because you would need something to remove the hide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're probably, I mean, we know they're using the whole animal, so they're probably sending the hide off to wasn't there a tanner's guild?
Yeah, there's a tanner's guild.
Yeah.
Skin sacks.
Yeah, the skin sacks. So they're probably sending the hides off. Which again means... Go ahead.
Oh, just side note, I wanted to ask earlier before I figured out my mic situation, but what's the name of the plumbing guild? Because I didn't see that before. I didn't notice it.
There's the pipe polishers.
I was going to say the poop pushers.
It's great. Sorry, side note.
We haven't encountered them yet.
Well,
what's something
the fact that I haven't frozen? Oh, sorry. Go for Sarah.
What's something that you would expect to see different in the plumbing in this room than the plumbing in the other rooms? Keeping in mind we're moving viscera through this room.
There would be
like an entry point, right?
Like a drain.
Yeah, like
yeah,
drainage.
Oh, even spaced on that word, an entry point. Jeez. I'm very embarrassed. I'm gonna walk myself out.
To be fair, we've been doing this for about 2 hours at this point, and that's usually when people's brains shut off. So it's fine. We're hitting that wall.
It's just my prehistory. It just seeped into my brain. I feel like caveman archaeologist. Ugh. Entry point. Ugh.
I don't know. You're the one that pulled up the fancy word for rodent run earlier, so that I yell at people for using every time. So we've got our killing floor. We've got our drainage. What do we think about? Here's where we get to integrate the game. What do we think about the burn lens?
So the burn lens,
it'd be substantial, right, in that area?
Probably, yes, because it did do some damage. You may even see in what's left of the... See, I can't have my words anymore either. The wall area. Oh, my thing's not working. Oh, yes it is. There we go. The wall area here, you'll probably see that there's been, there's some charred parts of the wall, and then an area that's been clearly replaced. Because it's obviously newer looking. It doesn't have burn on it. So what kind of a... Go ahead.
Oh, I would just also expect that the burn sediment too in that area, the burn lens to be extremely disturbed as well, because they're also moving the beast that you guys killed. They'd be moving it out of the premise, right? And that'd be dragging the sediment around a little bit in that area.
Well, I mean, that'd be a one-time episode, so that in its own right wouldn't be a huge disturbance, but the fire itself would have been enough of a disturbance to make that particular feature very disturbed.
Okay. Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Indy?
I was just gonna say that this would look more like, versus in the room that was used for smoking and curing, this is clearly an accident. Like, the fire was not set with the intention of doing something as far as like smoking the meat or curing the meat. This was something where fire was started and actually did damage.
Well, you guys know the difference between fire glazed brick and regular brick, correct? Okay, so fire glazed brick. That's fine. Fire glazed brick, you usually, or just glazed brick, you usually only find in fireplaces and that kind of stuff, because the impurities from the smoke and the fire and the things that burn, they settle inside the pores of the brick, and they actually create this really, it looks like a glass glaze. It looks like tile, like a tile glaze on the bricks, and it occurs over a long period of use. So it's not something that's only going to pop up after 30 days or just one burning episode. So that's why I was mentioning when we were over here in the smokehouse that the brick along this wall, being the wall that would have brick on it, that brick is glazed, whereas the brick throughout the rest of the building doesn't have that glaze on it because it's not exposed to long-term fire. And it's